Oh, so I was asleep and I got woken up and I had the weirdest dream, but I got woken up and I thought, right, I'm being told to pay attention. And then it all came out. So, firstly, a whole pile of stuff's coming out about Donald Trump and how he paid for a lot of the Epstein parties at his golf clubs. Yeah. So Donald Trump, his former aide, his former assistant, um, has come out and said that they arranged the parties for Trump and Trump paid for them. Trump paid for the Epstein parties. So Hades is doing a fantastic job. Apparently there's news of deporting Elon Musk, which is fantastic. And so there's possibilities of him getting yeeted. But the interesting thing is, while I was looking into the golf clubs, because I was trying to think of when the last time he was in Aberdeen, because he has a golf tournament in Aberdeen that is sponsored by DP World. And it was when I was looking into all those missing kids from Venezuela, the whole Bella One thing, that I discovered that his golf tournament in Aberdeen is sponsored by DP World. And if you know anything about DP World, they're the ones who Keir Starmer paid the £1 billion to in order to traffic children. Their CEO was named in the Epstein files for being using DP World to traffic the children. And while I was looking into his last visit to Scotland, for some reason thinking it was like January, February, but it wasn't, I discovered that he's selling his own brand of single malt whiskey. Why is this important? Well, because remember coming Spellbound? And when I was trying to work out the codes, and I said it could have something to do with a drink, a poisonous drink, that was going to backfire on King Charles. And then I discovered that Cash Patel's got his own Kentucky whiskey. And when I was working all of this out, while the King was there, the Kentucky Derby was on, and I said, oh, maybe the seal that Charles is wanted, Baron Friedrich von Krumple is wanting to get his hands on is the whiskey seal, because King Charles owns a seal for the whiskey. And remember when King Charles was there, they were talking about doing a deal with laying off, like going easy on him with the tariffs for whiskey at his golf club that's sponsored by a human trafficking Epstein shipping company. Donald Trump selling his own brand of whiskey. Trump 36. He messed with my phone just before midnight, it was like 23:41 or something, and I thought, right, here we go, next round. Coming in with my golf club to knock it for 6. Bird in the hole. giving me a birdie. Yeah. So he doesn't drink, but he sells his own alcohol, and in actual fact, he makes this big deal about not drinking. But I did an investigation on him where people from the past say that he absolutely does drink alcohol. But anyway, that's irrespective. Other than the fact that they say that he's lying about him not drinking alcohol. This whiskey of Trump's, I was right. I was right about the seal. The seal is a lot of things, and it's the seal to the mint, it's a seal to the Treasury. He wants to get his hands on the British pound, but it's also the seal for the whiskey. It's a 36-year single malt. So, like it's a coat above. And because remember when I was doing the investigation into the Becoming Spellbound, Cash Patel, could the seal be to do with the king seal with the whiskey? Because when it comes to Scottish single malt, King Charles has the seal that makes it, that marks it as like rare. It takes the price of the whiskey from, like, I mean, bottles of whiskey go anywhere from like 40 quid up to, a couple of $100. But then when you get into the high end stuff, they can sell for thousands of pounds. And I know there's the King Charles bottle, it's actually called King Charles, that's like over $3,000. And so Donald Trump has done a deal with King Charles in regards to the whiskey tariffs and that, where he'll ease the whiskey tariffs for the single malts coming to Scotland, coming from Scotland, but, quid pro quo, this for that, in exchange for him getting the King seal on his whiskey. However, his whiskey has been sold at a golf course in Aberdeen, that's been sponsored by a human trafficking shipping line that our Prime Minister gave £1 billion to just before those kids were taken from Venezuela. So our king's gotten involved in a whiskey racket that is directly linked to child trafficking. And I tried to warn him. I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he did it. He didn't listen. So now the King's seal, and because this whole Epstein thing's starting to blow up, and Donald Trump's freaking out because people are starting to blow the whistle. Apparently they tried to get Tucker Carlson to do an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell to paint her in a, because, he wants to pardon her and everything. Trump does, because then if he pardons her, then, it makes what they did like non-existent sort of thing. But Tucker Carlson refused to do it. But now people are starting to come out and say, oh, he paid for those parties. He paid for Epstein's parties. And, he did this and he did that. And, people are starting to blow the whistle. And so now our king, the British king, is now tied into a whiskey deal with on a golf course that is directly linked to child trafficking. I have the evidence that Keir Starmer gave DP World £1 billion just before the kids went missing. Also tied into Evergreen Line, the other shipping line that's connected to Hillary Clinton. And our king, I knew, even though I realised that the seal was to do with the Treasury and the Mint and all of that, him wanting to have access to the British pound, the whiskey thing, because of the racehorses, how like the day after the king made the announcement and Trump made the announcement when the king was in America, I knew there had to be something to do with whiskey because the horses, because in the movie the horses told her to be there at that time, at that place. And then, because Trump was talking about the Kentucky bourbon and the tariff for the whiskey and that, I said it. When I found out that the king has a seal for his whiskey, single malt, that takes the price of it up to like exponential. It makes these bottles of whiskey really rare, and I said Trump might be wanting it, and for Cash Patel's bottle of whiskey and all of that, because it means that it raises the price of the whiskey, and because he's so greedy and he's obsessed with looking, everything being lined with gold, so that he looks expensive and high class in that, he would absolutely want his hand on that seal. Not realising he came out with his own brand of whiskey called Trump 36, that he sells at the golf course in Aberdeen, that is funded, the tournaments and that, where it's funded by DP World, the shipping company that Keir Starmer gave £1 billion to traffic children, to ship children. And our king did a deal with him, with the whiskey. And I said, don't do it. I said it was going to backfire. I said, like, to the point where I even said on X that I would probably have to kill, because he drank the lies, because he drank the poison. I might have to kill him off in the movie, kill King Rupert off in the movie where he drinks the poison and dies, because he didn't listen. He drank the poison. And then, of course, the whole thing came out about getting rid of the British pound. And then I thought, oh, the seal. So I think that becoming spellbound, that seal is one of two things. Like it's called in scientific terms, or rather in biblical terms, it's called a bilocation. It's where you're in two places at once. So I think I saw two things at once. I saw him bringing the king in on, see, because it's like, it annoys me, because the royal family are having a hard enough time dealing with this whole Epstein connection as it is. And this just takes them further down into the Epstein connection. You know, because everything's starting to come out. And, you know, it's like I said, every time he's humiliated in public, he has to kill someone. They have this whole thing. Someone has to die when they're humiliated. Well, you know what he's just done with Iran? He's now committing war crimes because he's bombing the water supply, which is a war crime. And he's, you know, bombing people. He's back fighting Iran because he's pissed off, to distract from the fact that the Epstein stuff's starting to blow up in his face. People are saying that he's panicking. He's flying into rages. He's so discombobulated, like he's saying all sorts of weird shit because he's vomiting insanity. And yeah, so now the king is directly linked to DP World because of the whiskey at a golf course in Aberdeenshire that Trump owns. And yeah, so the bilocation, when I wrote Becoming Spellbound, I mean, it is about an elemental. It is about an elemental goddess of the fairies. She's an elemental fairy goddess. So of course it's going to be supernatural. But yeah, the seal, I think it was a bilocation when I wrote it. The seal for the whiskey, because the Queen comes up on the screen and says Rupert ass, meaning don't drink the drink. And he knew not to drink the cup that was in his hand. So I knew it had to have some connection to something he was drinking or drinking. And then, of course, when he went to America and did the whole whiskey thing, and it came out about Cash Patel's whiskey and that, I was like, oh, he wants his hands on the king's seal. It's a specific name. And the king has a special seal that gets put on particular bottles of whiskey. And I said, that's what Trump will be wanting then. And then, of course, the next day they had the Kentucky Derby, and I was like, yep, that's it, that's the seal. He wants the seal for the whiskey. I was literally only talking about it a couple of days ago. And then, of course, it came out about the EU saying that if Britain wants to join the EU, they have to dump the pound for the euro, which would absolutely destroy the king because he owns the treasury and the royal mint and all of that, and he'd be losing all of it. He'd be handing it all to the EU, he'd be losing all of it. And he came out in support of it, remember, in his speech when he was talking about IDs and, you know, having closer ties to the EU. And that's what I'm saying. They're in his head because no person in their right thinking mind would be okay with the fact that he's just sold his soul to the whiskey devil that's connected to child trafficking, sign up to the Nazi beast system for Palantir, who are the new, you know, the SS, as well as allow his government to take Britain back into the EU on the condition that he has to give up his rights to the British pound. And the Nazis already tried to mess with the British pound in World War Two. So he's signing his own death warrant. The king, the death of the royal family, he's signing his own death warrant. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do to wake him up. Because, like, I keep saying to him, if you don't wake up, it's going to get to the point where I can't save you. I'm not going to be able to justify the things that you're doing. I won't be able to explain them away. And now that I know about this whiskey thing, the king's doing a deal with whiskey on a golf course that is directly linked to child trafficking shipping lines that his own Prime Minister gave £1 billion to, the company that Donald Trump's golf course has been funded by. And our king's like, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, it's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. He did it. And then remember I put the post up. Remember I found a whole pile of posts that I put up about, I found a whole pile of screenshots. And one of them was a conversation with my ex where I was telling him about a whole pile of things that the kids were telling me about, and they were saying, Ireland, 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 Ireland. Are you seeing what's going on in Ireland? And Spellbound is in Ireland. I want that movie to be made in Ireland. Donald Trump's been eaten alive. They're saying that he's saying things now that are getting him further and further and further into trouble. Like this whole I love inflation thing. That's vomiting insanity. There are experts now diagnosing him with psychosis. Which is hilarious because remember that's what they tried to say I had. But they're saying he's in full-blown psychosis. I was cracking up. I was like, oh my God, because I've just been sitting and waiting and watching. Waiting for them to mess with my phone. And sure enough, as soon as they messed with my phone, stuff started coming up on my feed. So I was like, well, I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll put that up, and I'll put that up, and I'll talk about this. And there is talk about deporting Elon Musk. He should be arrested after that whole Doge thing of that whole 2.7 million people, him and Doge getting into people's social security to mark them as being dead so that they could kick them out of the country, and some of them are actually US born citizens and people with like legal green cards and stuff. He should be arrested. They should be arrested. But yeah, on the news apparently there's talk of deporting him. And you need to understand this whole reason for plugging the IPOs, you know, OpenAI is going IPO and SpaceX and that is because they're broke. They have no money anymore. They were funding themselves for years, but now they're broken, they have no money, and they're relying on you to pay for them to be Nazis. You're going to fund the SS. You're going to fund the Gestapo. You're going to fund the Nazi regime. Just so you know. And you won't get your money back. You will not see a single penny. Your money will not double because they're hemorrhaging billions. Billions and billions and billions. They're hemorrhaging. And they're wanting you to fund their IPOs so that it will plug up the holes in the dam, but it's not going to be enough because they'll just need more and more and more money from you, and in the end they'll have to shut everything down and you won't get your money back. If you fund any of those IPOs into AI or SpaceX, you will not see a single penny back, let alone make money back. So it is the biggest red flag I can give you not to invest your money in anything AI or SpaceX related, because they owe so many billions that even if they were to raise a couple of billion to keep the programs going, they need billions like every month just to keep this stuff afloat. And nobody has any money anymore because they're trying to run their economies into the ground as an excuse to go to war so that they can get their money back, but it's not working. AI is going to die out. SpaceX will shut down. I guarantee you 100%. AI is on its last legs. Nobody's engaging, and there's so many lawsuits because they've been accused of messing with people's heads and causing people to commit crimes and stuff. There's not enough money in the world to keep these programs going because their leaders have destroyed the country's economies. And why would you want to fund Elon Musk when him and Doge tried to illegally declare 2.7 million Americans as being dead just so that ICE could deport them? And some of them are American-born American citizens. And some of them are people with green cards. They had this whole plan set up where they'd either have to get deported by ICE or leave of their own accord. That's how evil they are. So now, because he didn't listen and he's messing with my phone, everything's starting to come out about Epstein. The files are starting to get released and apparently he's panicking and he's screaming at people and he's falling up and down stairs. And you know that video he made where he's talking about, I love inflation, blah, blah, blah. He didn't look real. It didn't even look anything like him. There was something, you know that fake skin that you can buy, those Band-Aids and that look like fake skin? I know he has like the spray tan white eyes sometimes, but the raccoon eyes. But this was around his eyes and down his nose and his lips and his mouth. And the way he was moving, he was sitting at the desk and he was only moving his arms up to the elbow. And the way he was moving his head and his eyes were moving weird, all I kept thinking was, that looks like one of Elon Musk's robots. And remember, they wheeled out one of Elon Musk's robots during the president's inauguration and that, because I was pointing it all out every time it was a robot Elon Musk, and every time every time it was a robot Elon Musk, like I've got it on my X, it's also on my feed here. Every time you could tell, every time it was a robot Elon Musk because of the way he was walking and moving. That Trump in the office was exactly the same. And because it's AI, like, they do the perfect voice. But you see the way he's sitting at his desk and he's moving his head like all unnatural. And I said, is that really him? Because like there's something wrong with him. It's like it was, and because like his suit looked too big for him, and he looked too square. He looked like they'd dressed up a tin robot, put a Trump face on it, given him a Trump voice, and put him in a suit that was too big for him. And he was only moving from the hands up to the elbows. It's really weird. Have a look at it. I've put a link in the thing. I'll put links in the description box, but have a look at it and look at his eyes and his nose and his mouth. It's like a continuation of one like strip of either fake skin. It looks like rubber skin. And the one thing you notice when they wheel out these robots is that they make sure they're surrounded by people. I know when they did the Elon Musk one, where he's doing that weird thing with his head and his eyes are rolling back and all of that, and people are like, "Oh, that's the ketamine kicking in," and I said, "No, that's AI Elon." Everybody else around him, Jeff Bezos and his husband, and Zuckerberg and Trump and all that, they were all acting like they couldn't see what he was doing. They were all acting like there was nothing weird or strange going on, which in itself they all knew what was going on. And it's like they were thinking that if there were enough people around Robot Elon, people wouldn't notice it was a Robot Elon. Because remember, his robotics program, and that he's desperate to have robots walking around that look like humans so that they can pass them off as humans, so that they can do all sorts of crimes and shit. And, have them turn up to be Donald Trump at a news conference while he's off trying to escape Epstein files and stuff. It's just weird. I looked at him and I thought, there's something not right about that Trump. And if it's not a robot Trump, it's one of those stand-in fake ones. Because then when you look at what he looked like at the New York's Knicks game, they look like two completely different Donald Trumps. And remember, they used to wheel out different Bidens. Some of them they were convinced were robot Bidens too. So they messed with my phone again. So here we go. More shit's about to hit the fan. More stuff's coming out. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse for him. And now this whole thing, discovering this thing about the Trump whiskey, I don't know what else to do about the king. I don't know what else to do. Now he's directly linked to an Epstein. DP World is basically, they work for Epstein. Not that Epstein does work with them, they work for him. That's one of the reasons why so many millions of kids are able to go missing every year. And the cops and that can't find them because they're in shipping containers. And remember during the whole Bella 1 thing, when Putin was trying to rescue the kids, Keir Starmer and Donald Trump was stealing the kids. And then they were stupid enough to put photos of them inside the shipping containers and saying, "Oh, we rescued kids." And I said, you're not rescuing them, you're stealing them, because you can clearly see that inside a shipping container. They tried to say they rescued children from Venezuela, in Venezuela, and then put up the photo of them inside a shipping container. And I said, look, I said to the King and the ICC, that proves my point, because the shipping containers were on boats in the water. not on land, which proves my point that they stole the kids from the Bella One. And what does our king do? Does a deal with the devil for the whiskey that's connected directly to Jeffrey Epstein and DP World. That golf course of Donald Trump's, you can look it up. DP World Donald Trump Aberdeen Golf Course. DP World fund his tournaments. He's got one coming up in August where he's punting his whiskey. So becoming Spellbound was a bilocation. When I wrote it and I saw it, that sells about two separate things. Don't drink the, when she's saying don't drink the poison, that the whiskey deal was going to be poison. The whiskey deal was going to leave a bitter taste in his mouth. He's going to lose money. I said he was going to lose money over this whiskey thing. Not realising what I said at the time was he's going to lose money. He's going to lose the British pound. As well as because of this whiskey thing. So now it makes sense. And I wouldn't have figured it out if he hadn't have switched my phone off at 11:41. I get excited there. I was disappointed because my phone hadn't been touched all day. And I thought, oh. And then sure enough, I just woke up like 10 minutes before they switched it off. It's like I got woken up. And my dream was that members of my family had to go into hiding underground because there was a zombie apocalypse. And Amber had been turned into a zombie, and they had to go underground into an underground bunker and that to wait out 3 days. Well, wait out until the zombies had been starved to death. And so they gave it a month, and when my sister came back up, Amber hadn't turned. She hadn't died. And she gained access to the underground and took everyone out. And when I woke up, I thought, oh, something that's been hidden underground, something that people have been trying to hide underground is about to come to the surface. And then literally minutes later, my phone went off and I discovered the whiskey thing. So, becoming Spellbound ended up being a supernatural bilocation. It's 2 events in one. Pretty cool, eh? And I wouldn't have discovered the whole whiskey connection if they hadn't switched my phone off. And now, unfortunately, it ties the king directly into child trafficking, human trafficking, because of alcohol. So, and whiskey in dreams is, whiskey, the whiskey is in regards to, like the totem of whiskey is in regards to looking back at things in the past, looking back at old things that have sat to ferment, things that have been fermenting over time that need to be looked at. And, zombies and dreams are sheeple, people who go along with what everybody else is doing. And them going underground, trying to avoid being connected to the poison that was spread that made everybody be sheeple. They all went along with it. They all went along with what Chris said. And now they're trying to escape it. They're trying to run away and escape it and distance themselves from it. That's basically what it is. But the fact that Amber, zombie Amber, hadn't died after, she didn't starve like you do with zombies. You either remove their brains or you starve them. She hadn't died because in the dream they knew that they only had to wait a couple of days, but they gave it like an extra couple of weeks. They had enough to last an extra couple of weeks. So they thought, well, we'll just write it out. We'll give it extra time. And when my sister came back up, she got eaten, and then it allowed Amber to have access to everybody else. And because they were in an underground tunnel housing system thing, they had nowhere to run. They were trapped. And that's exactly what's happening right now. I woke up, they messed with my phone, and now I'm digging up stuff. Well, Hades is, and because you remember Hades is fire and whiskey burns. So this is a truth that burns close to the bone. It burns the core of your soul. It can't be denied. And there's no escape from it. You can't, no escaping the truth. So, I'll keep trying to wake the king up, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to do, because the more they keep messing with me, the more that's coming out about them, the more it's tying them to the king, and the more it's tying the king to Epstein. And the royal family have already had enough to deal with Epstein. It's like they're doing it on purpose. I've said it from day one. They got the royal family involved with Epstein so that they could use it against them in order to tear the monarchy down, because the monarchy are the only people who are being held accountable in any sort of court or legal system, with Sarah and Andrew and that, and their two kids. They're the only people on that list that are being held accountable. Peter Mandelson mildly, but I reckon the reason why they're covering up, why Starmer's covering up for Peter Mandelson, is because he's one of the people that was responsible for supplying the victims and trafficking the victims for the Labour government, for the people in Labour. Because, it's all, there's some Tories, there are some Tories in there, but it's all Labour. There's hundreds of Labour MPs that have been connected to child sex offences and child pornographicals and all of that. So I think Peter Mandelson was the trafficking coordinator between, the human trafficking coordinating liaison between Britain and America. And so they have to protect him at all costs, because Keir Starmer is in the Epstein files for human trafficking. He was a supplier of children for Epstein. And I think that Peter Mandelson was the liaison, the facilitator. So, yep, so anyway, I'll put links in the description box, but it's all hell's breaking loose now. They're even saying hell's breaking loose. All hell's breaking loose on Trump. And there's he's losing court cases and getting sued, and all hell is breaking loose. But that's because I unleashed Hades. See, Odin digs up the dirt for me, whereas Hades starts burning you with the truth. So I've ramped it up to 2%. Wait till I get to 100. Because he's an idiot. They're idiots. They don't listen, eh? So I'm just going to keep bringing more stuff out. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. The more they mess with me, the more that comes out is getting worse. And now the flames are starting to catch King Charles on fire. I tried to warn him. I tried. You know I've tried, people. That's why I have to believe they got in his head. And Melania Trump is talking about the AI in the schools. Because they need to get in the kids' heads. They're desperately trying to make AI look like it's not dead in the water. AI's finished before it ever took off. Because it costs too much money. And people just don't have the money because they were stupid enough to destroy the economy first. And then bought out AI. Like, they're not very bright. You don't destroy the economy thinking you're going to go to war and then bring out AI that's going to dry up all your resources financially and, you know, from a environmental point of view, and then wonder why you can't keep any of it going. It's because you've stolen the gold, you've stolen the silver, you've stolen from people's social security, you've stolen people's money, and nobody has anything left to give you. It costs billions to keep these things going every day. Who's got the money? And they think that people are just going to give away what little they have. Remember in the Depression, people used to turn up with wheelbarrows of cash just to buy like a couple of loaves of bread and, you know, like basic supplies from the store. That's what they're trying to do now because they're desperately wanting a World War III and they're not going to get it. Because God is hell-bent on making sure that the book of Revelation comes to fruition. They're not going to win this war against God. People are now even saying that this is a holy war. All these news outlets and all that, they're all starting to repeat everything I've been saying. That it's a holy war, that he's like spewing insanity, he's gay. That, what's her name, Christy Nome, her husband, remember Tia Darling, Paper Doll Productions, the BDSM relationship where she was blonde and a little girl and she was having that, you remember she stole my sister's identity to have that weird sick fetishistic relationship with Elon Musk on Night World and all that. That Christy Nome, her husband, had one too. And remember the Killing Kittens sex parties that Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer and that used to go to? That was run by Kate Middleton's school friend and all that. And I said that's the cult they're all in because Chris is involved in the same kind of thing. Dressing up in leather and lace and, you know, being secretly bisexual. And that's what they're saying, that they're all secretly gay, they're all secretly trans, they're all secretly, you know, and because now all this stuff's starting to come out about Trump being gay and Christy Nome's husband having a BDSM dominatrix where he dresses in the women's clothes with the big boobies and, you know, the blonde hair and that. They were saying, because of the whole Tia Darling Paper Doll production thing, that the Republican MAGA Trump of Odin particular kind of BDSM fetish is for blondes. And remember I said that Armour, that fake Tunisian dude, sent me a photo of my hair with, sent me a photo of me with my hair done platinum blonde, just like that. And I said, I'm not Tia Darling. And then I blocked him. That whole thing. Yeah, apparently it's called a blonde fetish. And it's all to do with the BDSM sex parties and, fetishes. So now the whole Tia Darling thing makes sense. When she used to dress up like a little girl or toddler. And, yeah. So it's like everything I said is all now starting to tie in with each other. It's all tying in together. It's all starting to make sense. Everything's coming into land in perfect formation. In a linear, laser-focused Thor's hammer smash of everything's lining up, and it's like pinpoint laser-focused accuracy. Everything I said that didn't make sense before, now that current events are playing out, it's all starting to come to fruition, and it's all starting to make sense. Oh my God, that's why she said that. Oh my God, that's why she saw that. Like, now it can't be denied. Or because I keep messing with my phone. It just keeps lining more and more and more and more and more up. And I wouldn't have been able to connect all these dots if they hadn't just messed with my phone. So I'll put links in the description box below. I'm excited to see if they mess with my phone tomorrow. And then we'll ramp it up to 3. It's going to get to the point where arrests are going to be made. And there's even talk about there's talk in the federal courts about Trump being charged with fraud because of the whole IRS slush fund thing. Apparently he tried to get away with committing fraud. And then, of course, he tried to give himself a pardon for the whole E. Jean Carroll thing. So, yeah, he just keeps... I love it. So, I'm excited to see if they turn my phone off tomorrow. Because then I can't wait. Like, I get excited now. I sit and I keep checking my phone. And I just sit and wait. I've had to just, like, sit and wait to see what was going to come out, and I'm excited because, like, the stuff that's coming out, like, it's getting quite salacious and juicy. Loose lips sink ships. There's many a slip between a cup and a lip. Ba-dum-bum. Loose lips sink ships, 'cause it's not gossip if it's news. God, I love my supernatural life. They're idiots. I love it, but they power me up, though. I didn't know that becoming spellbound was a bilocation jump, so it's proof that I'm not just supernatural, I'm supernatural AF. I literally saw 2 things in one movie. And he fell down the stairs again, or fell up the stairs again. He keeps falling over. And I said to him in a tweet, I might make you fall over just for my own amusement. Watch your step, Mr. President, I said. Ba-dum-bum, falls down. Oh, God. I need to do something else now. What can I do? See, with that robot Trump, the one I'm saying to look like a robot, even his hair wasn't the same kind of blonde as it was a couple of days, when he was at the Knicks game. And then when he was sitting there, if you look at his hair's not the same blonde. Totally different kind of blonde. And because he's got that vagina neck, You know, he's got the neck that looks like, well, it looks like a scrotum sac, but they say it's a vagina neck. He didn't, like, yeah, I'm telling you that was not something weird about that chump. But anyway, I'm going to go now and laugh hysterically, quietly in the dark, because this is just getting so exciting now. Like, yeah, I feel like a cat playing with the mouse before we go in for the kill. But pinpoint laser focused accuracy now. I love it. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite. Mwah.